What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. And today we are going to be sharing the brutal truth about succeeding on Etsy in 2024. And this is something that I really needed to do because recently we started to do our Etsy shop audits, the one that we announced that we were going to be doing here in 2024. And if you guys are new and you didn't hear the news, we are going to be publishing on this YouTube channel. We are going to be publishing one new Etsy shop audit per week. And we're going to be doing that starting February 1st. And we already did our first recording session. And the other thing I should probably bring up is that, we did our recording session and we also decided to create this thing that we call our Backstage Pass. And this is where we're inviting all of our Backstage Pass members to sit in on these batch recording sessions. And we already did our first session. And we realized that, there's some things that we have to share. And that's why here we are going to be brutally honest, because that's what we do with all of our Etsy shop auditees. We already told those people that, and they're aware of that. They all survived, by the way. But if you do want to join our Backstage Pass club and you want to be part of these recording sessions before they air, you can go to brandcreators.com/club. If you go to brandcreators.com/club, you can join us. And it's within YouTube. So you're basically joining our YouTube private membership inside of our YouTube channel. It's gated as far as it's only available to our Backstage Pass Club members. So if you want to become one of them, we'd love to have you. And it's a lot of fun. We do answer some Q&A and all of that stuff. But this first one that we did, we went on for about 3.5 hours. You might be able to hear it still in my voice. I was losing my voice when we were doing that because I was getting a chest cold or a sinus infection. I don't know what it was, but I'm just starting to get my voice back to where I feel like I can speak normally. But it was a blast. We had a great time, but we did discover that, there is a common thing that we are seeing in not just these Etsy shop audits that we did, but we've been seeing it here for probably the last year. But now that we are working with these Etsy shop owners and helping them, it was clear that this was something that we needed to address. And that's what we're going to be doing here today. And I've got my good friend, my business partner as well, Chris Schaefer on. Chris, are you ready to dive in? Did I leave anything out that we need to share here to get this baby set up so we can get rocking and rolling?
I'm ready to rock and roll if you're ready to rock and roll. And Scott, you did bring up the Backstage Pass. And one thing that's really cool, and I don't know if you noticed it yet, for those of you guys who don't know, we get to see kind of each other on video here, but then we also have the chat kind of along the right-hand side of our screens. And I'm loving, Scott, that anybody who does have that Backstage Pass gets that little badge and their chats turn green inside of YouTube. And I love that as soon as we jump on here live, we're getting a lot of chat back and forth, but that chat is all green, which means a lot of these guys should know already some of the things that we're going to talk about. But I'm glad to have them here with us, because even if you heard us talking about this in that backstage session, there are some things and some different ways that we're going to be talking through this today that are definitely worth hanging out and listening through. And as always, Scott, I will say, if you guys have any questions along the way, leave them inside of the chat. I'll go ahead and answer some of them as we work our way along. We are going to save some time for a little bit of Q&A in between some of the things that we're doing today. So if you have a question about anything that we're talking about today and you're on with us live, make sure to ask that in the chat.
Yeah, awesome. We do have a lot of our club members, and I want to say, hey, thank you guys for showing up here as well. And I'll also say this, Chris and I were talking this morning. I actually flew in last night, so I'm literally fresh back at my desk. And you might be asking, Scott, where did you fly in from? I should probably let you guys know that I was in Clearwater, Florida. My daughter was there for a beach volleyball tournament for 3.5 days. And we got to visit my father as well down there. So that's where I'm coming from. It was awesome. It was cold, though, in Florida. Man, was it cold that one day. It was gusting winds and everything. We were right on the beach. But anyway, we are back and we are ready to rock and roll. And so what I want to say here is we are learning so much from doing these Etsy shop audits as well, because we're actually now able to go back and forth with the shop owner. Also, I should probably throw that out there. If you want your Etsy shop as one of these Etsy shop audits that we do in the future, you can go to brandcreators.com/audit. If you go to brandcreators.com/audit, that will take you to a page that you will have to fill out some information. Now, if you are a Backstage Pass Club member, you will also go to the top of the list. So anyone can submit these, but if you're a member, you will also get priority seating there, and we'll be able to kind of put you in the next available spot. But with that being said, here's the thing that we discovered. And the cool thing is it's like we're able to ask questions and go back and forth. We get to see the shop. We get to share the shop. We also get the members to chime in and give their ideas. But here's the big thing. And here's the brutal, honest truth that I want to share with you guys. All right. And this goes for a lot of people that are on Etsy. They do not have this one important thing. And that is, they do not have their niche as far as it being clear, or they have their niche picked, but it's a very low demand type of niche, and wondering, why are we not getting any sales, or why don't I get that much traffic? And one of the main reasons is because either, number one, you have not picked a niche with good demand, or two, maybe you did, maybe pick several niches, and now you're spreading it amongst all of these ones because you were doing the chase the trends model, the one that we don't really use or we follow. So that is the big thing that I want to say here is, if you don't have a focus on a niche, it is going to be extremely hard to succeed on Etsy. Now, I'm talking about succeeding in a way of, and again, a lot of people want different things. Some people want to make an extra $1,000 a month. Some people want to make $10,000 a month, which we had both those scenarios. We had one of our Etsy auditees, they wanted to make $1,000 a month. And we had someone that was already generated 10 grand, not in a month, but 10 grand so far. And I think in 7 months, but they want to make that a monthly thing. So it does depend on where you're coming from. But here's the deal. If you have a niche that you are focused on, you are going to be able to now tailor everything to that niche. But you're probably saying, well, Scott, what makes a good niche? And aren't all the niches out there already picked? And isn't it saturated? And the answer is no. And what I mean by that is, I know it's pretty generic, but what I mean by that is, there's not going to be a niche that is brand new. There never is going to be, right? And you don't really want there to be. You want to be able to find a niche that you can prove has sales and traffic, hopefully all year long, right? You're not just opening up a Christmas shop, okay? And we want to be able to do this, so this way here we can roll out products every single month, even though some months might be bigger than others, which is fine. But also, and here's the big thing that we shared with our Etsy audit, our auditees, as I call them. We shared this, that we're talking about Etsy, but we're building this thing not just for Etsy. We're building this thing that we could take this e-commerce business, because that's what we need to start thinking like. We're building this business, and now what we can do is we can take this here, all of these products that we've created for this niche, because we've already done the research on the niche on Etsy and it does well. It's probably doing well outside of that, and probably can grow a lot bigger outside of Etsy. So we're building assets. So the thing is, and here's where the brutal, honest truth comes in, is most of you, okay, and I can't say all of you, right? I'm speaking to the ones that I know are doing this, but most of you are probably not clear on the niche that you are targeting. Now, I want to know in the comments right now, let us know, do you have a clear idea, and are you focusing on one niche? Now, one thing I want to say here is, You might be saying, well, Scott, if I'm focusing on one niche, it's really hard to get into the home decor niche. Like that's one that we explored. Okay. Like, so how do I do that? Well, home decor is a large niche, right? It's selling things that could be decorations in the house, right? Or that could, go into an office or could go into a living room or go into a bathroom, right? All of these different areas. But what we like to do, and this is one thing, this is one, strategy that we talked through with some of our Etsy shop auditees, is we said, listen, you need to, number one, identify all of them, right? So sit down, pad of paper and a pen, and start identifying what are these sub niches. So I'll just give you an example. So if we're talking home decor, right, we could go Western home decor. There's one. We could go cottage core. I believe that's one. Okay. Another one, right? Farmhouse decor. There's another one, right? So there's three that technically aren't going to be as competitive as going after home decor. You see what we did there? All we did was we found all of these sub niches that are underneath the main niche. That's the way that we need to start thinking. And I believe, if I can remember correctly, and Chris, you might be able to help me out with this, but I'm pretty sure every single one that we did during our first batch recording session, there was 4, by the way, each one of them needed help identifying what their niche was. Okay. And some a little bit more than others. Some it was just like tweaking. It was like, well, wait a minute here. Who are you targeting? I'm targeting moms. Well, not really. You're really targeting the kids, even though the moms are the ones that are buying, right? So we want to tailor it towards kids, but yet we know that the moms are buying. So there's just a little bit of a shift there. And then looking at the product types, and you're like, okay, are you selling Halloween costumes, or are you selling costumes that could be for dress up or for play, right? So there's different things that we can do here to separate ourselves and also see where there's opportunity in these sub niches. And the cool thing is if we're going after, again, I'll just use farmhouse decor. Once we explore all the farmhouse decor things that we can sell, right, which is going to be a lot. I mean, you can keep going and going and going. Well, then we can add on cottage core if we want, because there's a little bit of crossover there, or farmhouse, right? Or Western, right? So maybe there's Western decor and farmhouse decor. Well, maybe now it's Western farmhouse, right? So now we've got that. And a lot of them are similar. Now, I wouldn't go too extreme. I would try to get them closer together. And as we call them, shoulder niches, because they're very close to one another. And that same customer might also want to buy something else, right, from that. So that's my first thing I want to throw out there. And again, I want to know in the comments if you feel as though you have good clarity on that niche. Because like I said earlier, if you do, it is going to become extremely easier than just trying to chase trends. It's also going to allow you to find products that have really good demand that could also lead over to your products that they might not have as much demand, but there's still something that your customer would buy. And that's where we now can have a little bit of a hybrid. We can have products that get good demand, brings in the people. And then when they get in there, now we have products that, well, maybe low demand if you were to do a search inside of Etsy or use a tool like Everbee, and you might be like, well, those don't have a lot of sales. But if you brought the right people in, would those people potentially be interested in that? It's kind of like going into the Bass Pro Shop, right? You go in there, you didn't go in there for, I don't know, a fishing net, right? But you went in there for a new lure. But when you went in there, you saw the fishing net and you go, I should probably get that. That would go, I need a new one of them. Or, I should get that because they're running a sale on it. Okay. It's still related and it's something that you could buy. All right. So that's the big thing here. All right. And I want Chris's side of this here. I want his opinion and his thoughts. And I'm sure I've left a few things out, but that's the big thing we want to share with you guys that we've learned is like, we need to get focused on that. And the homework that we sent these people away with, by the way, was sit down and get this right. Get this right. Chris, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I think Scott, the only audit that we did in that session that had a well-defined niche, and only one, was the last one that we did. And again, there was a little bit of tweaking there. And I know a lot of people are probably thinking, why is this such a big deal? Like, you guys have been talking about niches and making sure that you have a niche focused store and not a product focused store. Why is this something that we think is being brutally honest in 2024, is that you need to narrow down instead of trying to be everything to everybody? Well, the brutal truth, to go back to the title of this video, is that you're not going to compete professional graphic designers with teams. You're not going to outcompete people who are using AI along with those teams to just create more and more and more products. And that's not to say that design is not important, right? We have to create products that have a good design. But at the end of the day, it's not the individual products that you are posting on Etsy that matter at all. It's the customer and what they want. And if you are not 100% laser focused on a specific customer in 2024 and beyond, it's going to, and Scott, you said it'll be easier to compete. I'm going to go a step further and say maybe not within the scope of 2024, but certainly by this time in 2025, maybe by the middle of 2025, it's going to be virtually impossible to compete with just throwing up designs. If you're not focused on the customer and you're trying to get customers from all these different niches, you're not going to be able to compete moving forward. So if you're starting on Etsy or refocusing on Etsy this year, starting with the niche focused approach really is the way that we have to go. And Scott, a lot of people in the comments are saying, yes, I have an idea. Like, I've been listening to you guys for a while. You talk about niches. I understand that I need to find a niche, but what does this actually mean, right? Should I be doing this? Is this my niche? They're having a lot of struggles narrowing it down. And so I guess we should probably start with what a niche is and what a niche isn't. And then I wanted to get some ideas from you. If somebody has 2 or 3 different niches that they're considering, how do they decide where to start? So when Scott and I use the term niche or niche or nicho for our Spanish speaking friends in the chat, there's a few different ways that people can go with this. But what we mean when we say that is it's something that someone identifies as or say that they love. And I saw Scott, somebody in the chat said something to the effect of, my niche is templates. And then they went on to actually describe what their niche is, right? Who are those templates for? That is the niche. It's not the product, which is the template. It's the person buying the product. And so I want people to really understand that before we move forward. You are not a t-shirt shop. You're not a template shop. You are a business boutique store, right? You're a store for business owners. You are a fishing enthusiast store. You are an outdoors store, right? Whatever that is, you need to focus on who the customer is, and then you can backfill the products. And I think a lot of people really start with the product first approach, because a lot of the people who did have early success on Etsy were just throwing things up. And you could do that 5-6 years ago on Etsy and just launch a bunch of t-shirts and never have to design anything different or think about the customer experience, because there was more demand in terms of customer searching than there was supply. And those two things have come to be a little bit more equal over the last few years. And so to compete with the people who have teams of 4 or 5 designers doing nothing but creating t-shirt designs, we have to take a step back and focus on some of the business principles, which for what we're talking about here today really is focusing on the niche and understanding who that customer is. And if we can appeal directly to that customer, then to your point, Scott, we can get them not just to buy that new lure, but to also buy the fishing net, maybe a new tackle box and a rod and reel along the way. So with that in mind, right, understanding now that a niche is the person buying the product and not the product itself, how can somebody narrow this down if they have 3 or 4 different ideas of things that they really like to do?
Yeah. Okay. So I would say if you're struggling to figure out what niche you should go into and you have some ideas. Now, this is saying that you already have some ideas, like 2 or 3 different ideas that you would like to explore. My advice would be this. Number 1, I would like to go through and see what is the demand potential for these niches. So if I was going to use an example like this, I'm very into home decor. and I love farmhouse stuff, and I love Western stuff, and I don't know, I love cottage core. So I would take those three and I would then start doing research in that niche. Now, research is products. Are there products being sold to this client, right? Or this customer? Because you could get interior designers, right? That would be your customers, and they would buy over and over and over again from you. You could also get homeowners that want to decorate a room or two. Okay. So I would be looking at that. The validation comes in. And then what happens is, let's say that I do all three of them. And let's say that there's two of them that are a standout. Well, then I'd ask myself, what one out of the two has the best potential for multiple products? Okay. I'd be starting to look at, like, what kind of catalog can I build? Because I'm always thinking about product lines. Because the one mistake that a lot of sellers make is they just find that one product and they're like, man, if I could get that one product that's selling 20 or 30 a day, man, that would be awesome. And then there's nothing else for that customer to ever buy. So I'm always looking at repeat customers and also increasing the value of the cart. And that's something that a lot of people don't talk about. If you start to build out a product line, a product catalog, well, now you give that customer more opportunities to increase the value of their cart. So those are things that I'm looking at if we were going to enter in a new niche or even add in a sub niche. These are things that we're going to be doing. Now, not so much on a sub niche, because if we've already established that the main niche, yes, large, where is the sub niche that I can enter? And then if I'm going to add on a sub niche, it's not as important because I'm not relying on that one totally. It's just an add-on. All right. So the big piece here and the big takeaway is you definitely want to do your product and your niche validation. Product validation is partly niche validation, because if the products aren't selling in a niche, well, the niche is no good. So that's kind of what we're looking at. Now, the one thing here I will say, and I'll leave with this, is if you don't find Etsy shops that are built out as a brand, as we talk about, don't let that discourage you. Don't let that be to you like, well, they're not proving to me that you can sell in this niche. No, it's just no one is really doing that. So what I would do is I would just search products or look at products, do my product validation using Everbee. And if you guys are not using Everbee, here, a little shameless plug for you. You can try it for free. Head on over to brandcreators.com/Everbee. All right. You'll buy us a cup of coffee, and we love our coffee. But if you do that, now what you're going to do is you're going to see, like, well, this one shop that's chasing trends or that sells everything in every niche, they've got 3 items in there that are in your niche. And then you find another shop that's doing the same thing, right? They've got 3 different products that they're selling. And then you got another one that's got 1, and another one that's got 1, and another one that's got 5. And then you basically tally them all up and you go, wow, if I had all those products in my one shop, this is the potential, right? So that's how you can kind of use other shops that aren't doing what you're doing. And then you're going to have a huge advantage because you're going to have a brand that caters to, to this specific niche. So that's what I would recommend doing. And that's how I would validate a niche and products. Does that help, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's great. And it's funny, Scott, because when we talk about selling more in e-com, right, there's really only 4 levers to pull. And you just touched on the one that no one really ever talks about. The 2 where everybody in the Etsy world seems to be focused are adding more products, right? So just launching as many products or new designs as possible, which comes as a result of trying to find more customers. But if we want to increase the revenue that we are generating on Etsy, whether we're at 0 right now or $100,000 or $1 million right now, if we're trying to increase that, there's 4 levers that we can pull. And everybody focuses just on getting as many customers as possible, which means they need to add more products to be successful in the Etsy ecosystem. But they forget about the other 2. And there's one that is a little more controversial, which would be raising prices, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, if you are a niche-based store, you can sell a lot of things at a higher price than you could if you were just trying to compete on the search level by launching a bunch of t-shirts, right? But the one that no one ever talks about is selling more to the same customer. increasing the lifetime value of that customer. You are not going to do that in the Jersey Shore gift shop. I saw somebody in the chat was talking about being from the Jersey Shore, and I know that's an example that you like to use. And if you guys have ever walked into a gift shop on the Jersey Shore, you will know that they have t-shirts with every possible combination of names, shot glasses with every possible combination of names, and a bunch of just random buckets and shovels and some of those kinds of things, right? The only reason those stores exist is because they get maybe one shot a year at those customers, and they have to be in the right place at the right time, right? You're not going to go buy another Chris Loves the Jersey Shore t-shirt unless you do something to the first one. And they know that. They're not worried about that. Taking that approach on Etsy is going to be very detrimental moving forward, because acquiring that initial customer is going to be much harder on the search and ad side as more sellers start to listen to things like this and get wise to it. So the smart approach really is focusing on the long-term value of that customer, selling them more products within the Etsy ecosystem, and long-term being able to get them somewhere like your email list, your website, any of those kinds of things where you truly own the customer. And then you can exercise all of that lifetime value, continue to get more value out of those people. And all of that comes back down to focusing on the customer first and defining that niche very clearly. It sounds a little counterintuitive, because the easy thing to do is just to launch 20 more t-shirts, right? It's a very easy thing to do. But you can get much more benefit out of launching fewer products, but selling more of those products to the people who start to build a relationship with you. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. And I think you explained that rather well. I do see a lot of questions coming in. I see a lot of questions coming in from our Backstage Pass club members. And for those of you that don't know, they are people that are part of our club that we do these, these Etsy shop audits. If you guys are just tuning in, and you're able to join us on these batch recordings before we actually air them. But there is some questions that have come in that we're going to address and we're going to answer. And as a Backstage Pass Club Pass member, we always put those at the top of the queue. So we'll be getting to those here shortly. Chris, before we do move on, and there's a lot of comments coming in. Actually, one was really good. It was more or less saying like, now I've basically purged, my shop with all of these products that did not align, and they weren't getting sales, and they were more or less just taking up space. So yeah, Darlene Ballard says, it was scary, but looking at my stats showed no sales, purged, and my shop has less than 100 items left, but it feels good to get rid of the trendy stuff that did not sell. So she was chasing the trend. She was, the trend chasing model that we've all heard of before. And, it's worked for some in the past. It's just, those days, I believe, are over, or at least numbered. And that is the big message here today for you guys is, really just get clear on the niche. And if you do, it becomes so much easier, and there's so much more upside because you have that chance of repeat customers, and you also have the chance of increasing that cart value. One customer buy one thing, right? Or one customer buy 5 things, right? Like, what one do we want? Well, probably the second option there would be nice. So with that being said, I do want to know also in the comments, all right, I want to know right now, a lot of you have already said that you're still trying to decide on the niche. We can have a little fun here too. We can do a little spitballing together. If you guys want to drop some random niches in there and see what we think as far as, hey, put it in there and say, hey, what would you do with this one? Or is this a niche? And then this way here, we can kind of get some real examples, besides the ones that we're sharing here with you. So if you guys want to do that in the comments, we can have a little fun here too during this live stream. So if you guys want to do that, that would be cool. Let's do that. Chris, do we want to answer a couple questions here before we move into, I've got a couple other things I want to share with people. One of them, I want to share a simple method for increasing traffic to your Etsy shop. I also want to share how to increase your sales with one little simple method. I've got a couple simple methods I want to share today, and we're going to do that here after we answer a few of these questions. So Chris, I've started a few. I know you start a few. Do you want to start with any?
Yeah, Let's just jump into it. So first of all, Scott, I like our new little game show here called Is This a Niche? So let's start with some of those that are coming in, right? So Honey
I like
Wesley
that.
says, bling lovers. Are bling lovers a niche or no?
Bling lovers. So just people that like dazzle, like that like sparkly stuff, like, maybe around, a license plate, or maybe they want it, I don't know, a mirror, and you go around there, it goes, I don't know. I'm trying to think like what that would be as far as a product. I personally don't think that that is a niche. I think it's a product that maybe someone in another niche would be interested in, like maybe Western, they would like, you know, maybe sparkles around the boot, or maybe they would want something like that for a kid's room that was into Western. But I don't think that as people are, again, here's a way to think about this. If you went to Etsy, would you search for, and maybe you would, right? I don't know, but I would have to validate this, right? Like bling, uh, bling decor for kids room. Like, would that be a thing? I don't know. I'd have to do the search to see. But I personally don't think that bling is a thing or a niche. What do you think, Chris?
I disagree. Bling is a thing. I do agree, however, that it is more likely to be a product or style of product. And you may, this is where it gets kind of gray on that. People can say, I love it test, right? People might say, I love bling, but they're generally referring to something specific, right? It's not an idea. It's more of a type of product, right? So you can have a travel mug, but you could also have a bling travel mug, right? So it's really just a subtype of a product rather than a niche itself, at least in my mind. Pedro says photography, travel destinations. That to me is a niche. Bookish. Amy Soderman wants to know if bookish is a niche.
Bookish? Is that what you? I don't know what
Yeah.
that is. Is it? I don't know. I guess I'd have to do the research. Chris, you would know better than I would, because you know about all that random stuff that I don't know about.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, if it's a type of person, then yeah. So like if you're thinking about somebody who loves books and that's who you're calling bookish, right? Scott, like the stereotype of like a nerdy reader type of person, right? Then yeah, so like a bookworm, that could be a niche, right? Because they're going to buy pillows and all of these things that say, I love reading. There's nothing better than a warm cup of coffee, my cat, and a good new book, right? Some of those kinds of things. So if we're leaning towards the bookworm angle, and that's what we mean with that, then yeah. If not, let me know in the chat and just kind of clarify that for us, and we can dive in.
Well, Chris, I want to dive a little deeper into the travel.
Okay.
Because I think travel it's large, right? But let's take travel and let's niche that down. So you could go travel and go, okay, different destinations, right? Like, so now it's like, Colorado is a different destination, or maybe national parks or something like that. Now, I know you have to be careful on some of those that are trademarked or copyright, like any of that stuff. We have to be careful. So you want to make sure you do your research on that. But I'm just looking at like, okay, what are the possibilities here? And that, again, this would be the exercise I would be running through. Travel, yes, you could do a bumper sticker that says, I love to travel, right? Or I love travel. Like, yes, okay, great. But to me, it's more than that. It's like, okay, people that like to travel, there's destinations. There's also different types of travel. Okay. There's people that are RVing. That's a type of travel. There's people that are camping. That's a type of travel, right? It's what they do. Okay. So that's kind of how I would break that down as far as travel goes. There's different types of travel. Okay. There's someone that's never going to go camping, but someone that likes travel. There's someone that is never going to, camp with a tent, but they're going to camp with an RV. You know what I mean? Like, or they're going to travel in an RV. Or what's the, I mean, it's RVing, but what's the one, Chris, that would be like, well, even glamping, right? Now you got glamping. That's another thing. So there's all these terms that come into travel that wouldn't necessarily be just as broad as travel. So just some ideas on how I would work through it. And then I would start to do the research. I would start to do the product validation to validate that niche. I'd be like glamping. I would type in glamping and see what the auto suggest came in and started to suggest. Or maybe it would be RV, or maybe it would be RV travel. Let it fill it in, see what it is. Then I would start to explore, okay, what's selling? sweatshirts. Maybe it's doormats. Maybe it is flags for outside the RV. Maybe it's stuff in, maybe it's home decor or RV decor, right? Not home decor, but it's RV decor. So there's all these different avenues that I would start to explore, and I would let the data tell me what one has the best potential. And also I'd look at the competition a little bit, but I would not let the competition run me off. I think the competition is fine because we're talking about a lot of times style and designs that we're creating that someone would just want ours over someone else's, even though it's used for the same thing. Does that make sense, Chris?
Yeah, I think it does. And travel, I think, is one of those where we really have to think about the person. I think that's actually a really good example, Scott, because you have to think about who the person is that's buying it. You're going to have within the travel niche people who are vacation lovers, right? That would be a sub niche. You're going to have RVers, campers. You're also going to have digital nomads, right? Those are going to be a very different subset of people who are in the travel niche, but are not necessarily going to buy vacation swag because that's not what they're traveling for. They might buy a destination guide or something like that, but they're looking at travel in a very different way from a vacationer or a business traveler. And so we do always have to think about that, and that will help us define it. So even if we have a niche, thinking about who the actual customer is and the way that they're going to interact with and use the product will help us more clearly define that niche. We had a couple people, Scott, asking about different types of decor. So I would say home decor is a niche. The question is, what is your sub niche? And I know Anush is in the chat with us, and she said cottage core or boho. Both of those would be sub niches, right? There's a lot of crossover in those, so you could probably launch a shop just in one of those. Pet lovers, yes. Book lovers, yes. Hikers, yes. Keith wanted to know, he said, if you're looking at like the pet niche, would you consider focusing on a single dog breed? Or is that too narrow to start? So is that too narrow of a sub niche if you're just getting started? If we're just focusing on a single dog or cat breed?
Not to start, right? I'm a fan of doing that to start, but also knowing I would not name my brand one specific breed, right? That's the difference. I would name it something where I could then cover other ones down the line. But yeah, I mean, that's a strategy for sure. Starting with one that has good demand and one that, well, you're interested in and that you could create good products for. I mean, it comes down to creating good products too, by the way, guys. Like, it's not just finding the niche and then being like, okay, cool, I got the niche and they've got products selling. Great. You still got to be able to deliver good products that people are going to like and enjoy. I mean, I did a video recently about that where I was being brutally honest there too. And I was like, in some cases, it's hard to swallow sometimes, but you got to take a little self, look in self and say, oh, my designs kind of suck. I got to improve them, So it does come down to that. And I think it's worth mentioning. But yeah, I would, I think we're good with that, Chris. Let's move on. So what else we got? We got any other quick ones that we can dive into here? But again, going back just to kind of seal that up there. Yes, I would say narrowing down and then start to add on those sub niches to build out your brand.
I make wire art sculptures of trees. I know that's a product. I'm not sure what to call that niche. If you asked me, so what would we call that as a niche, Scott? Wire art sculptures of trees. And I'm not quite sure where that would fit, but it would probably fit in whatever the design style is that you're using for that. So maybe you're in the modern art niche. Maybe you're in the modern home decor niche. I guess it would depend also on how big that tree is, right? If we're making life-size sculptures, Elysian Workshop, first of all, awesome. Second, right? That's a very different person from somebody who's going to buy one to put it on their bookshelf or something like that. But to me, it would come down to the style. Scott, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, and I'm going there right with you. It's like, okay, wire art, okay? Well, wire art could be adapted to any niche. So I don't look at that as a niche. That's a product style. And this is something that we went through with one of our Etsy shop auditees, which you guys will be watching here in, the upcoming weeks. If you are part of our Backstage Pass Club, you've already witnessed it. You've already sat in on that. So you probably already watched it. But here's the deal. You have this product type that you create, right? Like you create wire art, right? And you're going to create that for, I don't know, I'm just going to use this. I don't even know if it's a thing, but like cottage core, like you're going to create wire design stuff that would fit in with the cottage core. You're limiting yourself if you're only selling wire art. So now, and we actually went through this and kind of laid it out for one of our Etsy shop audits that we did. She creates the stuff herself. Like she's literally sewing stuff herself, embroidering herself. And the minute we said, okay, well, who are we selling it to? We're selling it to kids. Okay. What type? What are they into? Well, they're into, let's say, fairy tale. Okay, great. Well, what else can we create that's not necessarily handmade that you got to do everything? Oh, we could create sweatshirts. We could create pillows. We could create fun things for the room, right? So there's other things that we can bolt on. And that's what I mean. Like if you're thinking to yourself, like, I'm just selling wire art, that's great. We got to figure out who we're creating it for. But then you also want to open it up a little bit and go, okay, can I create print on demand stuff? This way here, I don't have to sell just wire art, because then you're limiting yourself to just wire art and that's it. That would be my recommendation anyway. Chris?
Yeah. Now, if that's your passion, then by all means, right? Like if that's the only thing you want to sell, yes, but you have to acknowledge that you are at some point limiting yourself a little bit there if you're just focusing on that one individual product, right? Scott, two more niches really quick, or potential niches, right? Is this a niche? Would party favors be a niche? And I think everybody at this point probably knows what we're going to say. Party favors are a product or a product type. The question would be, who are the party favors for, right? Are you selling wedding favors? Are you selling birthday favors? And I think SEJ Bird said kids' holiday parties, right? So kids' holiday parties, Scott, would that then be a niche? If we take the product side of this out, are kids' parties a niche?
Yes. To me, it would be, because now you are catering to that buyer, which in this case would be parents, right? Buying it for the birthday parties, right? And now that you know that, well, you're like, okay, they're probably going to have other parties, right? Other birthday parties, at least one a year. And we know that they're a mom and they're, buying these for their kid's birthday. But what other type of parties could they have? Or, what other other products could you sell that same customer, even though it might not be a birthday party, right? It's going to be, different events that people are going to have, that a big gathering would be happening. Maybe it's a first communion, right? And then, so there's these different things that you would do for decorations that would go into a party, not just party favors. So yes, I agree with you. Party favors are a product. Who are the party favors for is the niche.
Perfect. I had two other quick questions before we dive into the next topic. First one, so would you design for hikers and campers only the products? So if my niche is hiking and camping, are you creating only the products that they find useful for exercising that hobby, right? Or that thing? And the answer is no. Because if they're really into hiking and camping, they also probably have I'd rather be in the mountains coffee mug, right? They have some of these things that are quote unquote swag that go along with the thing that they're really interested in, that they're going to buy from the shop. So by all means, create the products that would be useful to them to use while they're hiking and camping. But you should also be giving them the lifestyle side of this, the water bottles, the t-shirts, the sweatshirts, the pillows, the blankets, the things that let them show off the thing that they are in, right? So you don't have to limit yourself to, if you're a kid's birthday party store, right? Just the party favors. You can look at all of the things that go along with the birthday party. The same thing applies on the hiking side of things, right? Or let's go back to the pet example, Scott. If we have a cat store, we don't just have to sell cat collars. We can sell, I love my insert breed of cat here pillow. We can sell all of those different kinds of things in the store, because that will let our customers show off the things that they are passionate about. And that's the benefit of going with the niche-based approach. You're focusing on something people are passionate about, or at the very least, right? If we go back to the party favors example, and I think I like that kid's birthday store example, at the very least, they're going to be buying multiple products inside of that same transaction. And there's a compelling reason for them to do that, right? They're not just going to buy the little party favors for the table. They're going to buy Billy's 5th birthday balloons from you. They're going to buy a variety of other things. And then they're going to come back when you have their Valentine's Day party or whatever it is, and buy some more things. So you don't just have to focus on that one useful thing for the niche. You can focus on the lifestyle side of it. And that's where you'll start to get a lot of the customers coming back over and over again. And Scott, Anush wanted to know, should I design with my ideal customer first and foremost in mind?
Okay. Well, first off, Anush is one of our Backstage Pass Club members. So want to thank her, and her episode of the audit that we did will be airing in the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited because I think it was really, really good. So Anush, yes, we want to, that's the beauty of this. That's the beauty of this, right? If you have that customer in mind, okay, and again, let's just say that it is in, we talked about this, and this is going to air, and anybody here that's watching or listening to this, they're not going to understand everything that we talked about unless they have already saw the episode when it airs, or someone that's in the Backstage Pass Club. Boho, okay, someone that is into boho design. All right, I would be thinking, okay, let's kind of go through the rooms of the house, right? And let's do the research there. It's bathroom, maybe kitchen, maybe it's living room, maybe it's office, maybe it's a den. Like, I don't know. I'm having all these different rooms. And now what I'm thinking of is like this one customer. Okay. I'm thinking about my wife, right? My wife, Lisa. She's looking to decorate our house with the boho style in mind. Well, she's going to be looking for all of these different pieces. And by the way, little fun fact and a little story here. About 5 years ago, we renovated a lake house that we have as an Airbnb. We still have it to this day. It's been fantastic. She designed the whole thing herself. A lot of work. Spent months with the design stuff, but we decorated it it was kind of a industrial mid-century modern kind of feel. Okay. And she went down the road of just exploring furniture and pillows and, throw blankets and, different things that are going to go in the bathrooms, different light fixtures, all of that with that in mind. So when she's doing searches, and a lot of her searches was, she did some on Etsy, but she did some on like Wayfair and things like that. It's all starting with that design style. So, she filled the whole house with all of these design pieces. Man, that would have been a good customer if you would have focused on all those other products that customer could buy. Now, you're not going to be able to sell like lamps. And, well, you can. Actually, there is lamps that you can buy with the shades that you can customize and things like that with designs. So don't limit yourself. And so, yes, I would be thinking about that one customer. What else could they buy if they walked into the store or if they're searching? So I'd be thinking about it that way. If they're searching, what are the things they're searching for? Let Etsy tell me that by doing some searches and letting it auto suggest, using Everbee, looking at some of the numbers there. And then the other mindset would be, okay, what else just off the top of your head could you think of that would potentially be purchased? So you can go there. You can even go to Wayfair and see what people are buying there. Maybe there's stuff there that people are buying that's not on Etsy yet. Another idea for you. So that's kind of the avenue that I would start to go through and start focusing on that one customer. Because if they come in your shop and they weren't looking for something and they see it, they might still want to buy it because they're like, wow, this is cute. I know that's what my wife would do. She would walk into a store and she'd be like going in there for one item. And then she'd be like, oh, this will go with this. Oh, I'll buy this vase. Oh, I'll buy these flowers, right? That'll go good in there. And then she just starts adding it to the cart. Before you know it, you're spending $1,000. Well, in our case it was, but in your case it might be instead of it being $200, it might be $400, or instead of it being $30, it might be $100. So that's what I would be focusing on. And Anush, hopefully that helped you. All right, Chris, what else we got?
One more thing before we dive into this, Scott. So Justina in the comments said, wait, did you just advise people who are selling hand-sewn and hand-embroidered clothes to add POD items like pillows and sweatshirts? As a regular buyer on Etsy, I would never buy it from a shop like that. And I wanted to clarify this a little bit because I think this is actually a perfect example of why understanding your niche is so important. So if your shop is built around hand-sewn things, then obviously you wouldn't want to add in things that would turn off a customer looking for hand-sewn things. You would need to look for more things for them to buy. And that's exactly why we don't like the product-focused store and we advocate the niche. So Justina, if somebody's coming into that store, Are they coming there because they're looking for a handmade thing? If so, then we have to keep that in mind. If they're looking for a really cool kids crocheted sweatshirt or whatever, right? And we sell other cool things for kids, there's nothing wrong with that. So we have to think about who the customer is. And I'm glad that you pointed that out, because that's actually kind of the opposite of what we were saying. And I know it's very easy to draw that inference from the example. But if you're thinking about who the target customer is, and you have a shop that is all handmade goods, and that's the reason people are buying it, they're coming to Billy's crocheted, hand crocheted sweatshirts or whatever it is, then you obviously wouldn't add in things that would turn off that customer. Does that make sense, Scott?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No. And I could see how that could be a turnoff, right? It's like, well, I only want to sell handmade stuff or things that, are personalized or customized by you, totally get it. But that's not what we're saying. It's like, not every product is going to work for everyone, but we had a great example in one of our Etsy shop audits where this, lady, that's all she did was create, and she was burnt out, to be honest with you. She's like, man, if I could find other things that my customer would want to buy, I would do it. Right. Because I still want to, it's still personalized. It's still their design. Right. But totally get it. And if it works for you, it does. If it doesn't, that's fine. We're not saying that. It's just, you do need to add more products for that customer to buy. So it's not just a one-off sale. So hopefully that makes sense.
So she clarified. She said, yeah, I mean, somebody coming to look for a handmade piece of baby clothing and finds a pillow for that baby that is POD. Okay, so this is the distinction I think that we need to make. We need to think about who the vast majority of people coming to the store would be here. So if it's somebody who really, really, really wants a handmade thing, first of all, they're not going to see your store unless they click through to see the store, right? So they're still going to come to that product, potentially buy that product. If you have the other things in there, they may not be the target customer for that. But the number of people who are looking for handmade baby blah, 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 right? Baby knitted cap or whatever versus just hat for baby, that number of the handmade people is going to be much smaller. And there's nothing wrong with only appealing to that portion of the market. But we have to remember that the vast majority of people searching on Etsy are just looking for the best baby hat or baby swaddle blanket or whatever it is. And so if we are in the baby niche, we can appeal to that. If we want to be in the handmade baby niche, that sounds weird because you don't hand make babies, but you guys understand, handmade things for babies, then that's okay, but we have to stick to that. If we can avoid limiting ourselves in that way and say we sell high quality baby products or whatever it is, and we're looking for the discerning baby mom or baby dad to come in and buy from us, then we can start to add in some of those things. So it's just how far down that sub niche, which is really what we're talking about there, do we want to go? The handmade baby clothes niche would be a sub niche of the baby clothing niche, which would be a sub niche of the baby's niche. So if that level supports your goals, great. If not, then we have to look at how we can add some of these things in without rubbing the majority of our customers the wrong way. And there's always a way to do it. You just have to think through it.
Yep. No, I think that was great. And see who said it here. I think it was Shelly. Yeah, Shelly Wagner just says, you certainly don't have to do pod. It's just a product addition. And that's all we're talking about. But if you want to be like every single product is knitted and or crocheted or embroidered by you, then yeah, that's not going to work for you. And that's totally fine. But I would encourage anyone to add high quality products that are still your designs, right? Still your designs, and add them in. Now, if your shop is, Shelly's handmade, baby clothes, then yeah, you probably don't want to do that. Although I would still make the argument that if someone went into a shop like that, but they saw an accent pillow for a baby's nursery, they probably would want to buy it. They wouldn't be like put off by it. Like, oh, I thought this shop was only handmade stuff. It's like, no, this was designed by us. And this is a pillow that would go with your handmade item. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that's me. You got to do what's right for you. All right, cool. We do have more questions that are coming in. If you do have any questions, drop them in there. If you guys are new to our channel or new to a stream like this, we do prioritize our Backstage Pass Club members first. We will answer those. And then if we have time, we will get to the additional questions after that. And oh, by the way, if you do want to if you do want to join our backstage pass club, you can just go to brandcreators.com/club. It's a little backstage pass that we give to to our behind the scenes little recording session that we do for our Etsy shop audits. We batch record them once per month. And then we go ahead and we edit those, and then we put them up on our YouTube channel publicly. But we allow people to be behind the scenes with us. It's a little more raw. Also, we do some Q&A. We take breaks. There's a lot of just a lot of talk and discussion that happens there as well to help everyone that's in the club. So if you're interested in that, it's under $10, by the way. So it's not that expensive. And brandcreators.com/club. And you can join us on the inside there, and you can get your questions answered priority inside of these streams. All right. So let me go ahead and address a couple things here. Not even address. I want to give you guys some tips here, because these are two things that I think people struggle with. And I think everyone can resonate with this. And maybe before I even set this up, let me know in the comments, if you were to say, what is your biggest struggle out of these two? Would it be traffic or would it be sales? So put in there traffic, sales, or if you want, you can put in both. And I know that everyone will probably say both, but I wanted to kind of know what one is the one that you think you struggle with, because some people get traffic, but they can't convert it to a sale. And that's a problem, but we can fix that. And I'm going to give you a couple things here today that we can fix both of these. So just drop that in the comments and let me know. All right. All right. So let's dive in here. So how can you improve your traffic with one simple tweak or one simple method? That's what I want to share with you. All right. Traffic obviously is super important. If you create a product and you don't get any eyeballs, little secret, you can't sell anything. I mean, we all know that, being smart, but that's a big deal, right? And some people can get traffic, but they can't convert to a sale. And I've got another video that will show you exactly what we can do there. So we want to focus on traffic though. So what is one simple thing that we can do to get traffic? Let me address the biggest problem on why people don't get traffic most of the time. The one thing that I have seen over and over and over again is people are picking products that just don't get searched. So they come into this thing, well, I want to sell on Etsy. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and launch some products on Etsy. Great. But they don't do the validation. They don't see, are people actually searching for this? You can't just throw up a product and assume that people are searching for it. We're just wasting our time, or we could be wasting our time. You might get lucky. Okay. But what I would say, and this is that simple little method that I want to share with you, is do your product research. All right. And what I would do first, the first thing that I would do is I would go ahead and I would be searching in that little search bar that Etsy gives us. So we always look at that search bar as customers. We go in there, we type in something, and we are going to get the answer back, right? Well, let it auto suggest. That's number one. So type something in there, right? Maybe it's home decor, and then let it fill in. What's the top home decor search? Maybe it is home decor farmhouse, right? And then you're like, okay, cool. Now I've got some direction. Okay. We want to start there because that's the first place that the customer is going to start, right? Is they're going to do the search. Once we've done the search and we've established a couple of these different, we call them long tail keywords. These are the keywords that people are using to search for these types of items. But then what we want to do is we want to find the ones that have high demand. So they're being searched for a lot. Okay, that's what that means. And then what we want to do is we want to create products that would be using those search terms. And here's the deal. Let's say that you do have some products. As long as these products are related in some way to the products that you're also looking to sell that have high demand, these products in your shop that aren't getting any traffic right now, they're going to start to get traffic. And as long as they're aligned with those other products, I always tell people I like building product lines or product catalogs, because if I get someone into my shop, there's a good chance they might see my other stuff and want to buy one, even though it doesn't get searched a lot. So the little hack here, the little method, if you will, is to find products, even if it's 3 to 5 products. Those are your traffic products. Those are the ones that are bringing traffic in the door. We've heard of these but the cool thing is these don't have to be lost leaders. These don't have to lose you money. So what you want to do is you want to have that search traffic coming into your shop, and then having your shop catalog full of products that they potentially also would want to buy. All right. So it starts with number one, understanding that you got to find products that people are searching for. That's number one. Number two, once you do that, you need to launch these products. You need to create your own version of these types of products. I don't mean copy, not at all. That's not what we're saying here. Create products that would be searched for using that same search term. So the example would be farmhouse home decor pillow, right? If that's the thing, I've got to create a pillow that is going to fall under that search. Now, of course, I'm going to want to see what style of pillow is selling for that search term right now. And then I'm going to want to draw inspiration off of that. And that's what I would go to the design stage with, and then launch the product. And then from there, traffic will most likely start to come in, because now we have went after products that we know people are searching for. So that's one simple method that you can use to start getting traffic coming into your shop and lifting all of your other products that are in your shop from that product that has the demand. So Chris, does that make sense? Did I explain that well?
I think you did. So Scott, basically what you're saying is you can create the best products in the world, but if no one is looking for it, you're going to have a hard time getting sales. Is that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Sure.
And so, and it's funny because I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat saying, yeah, traffic, conversions, sales, email, right? Like a lot of different things. And we can't think about conversion if we don't have traffic, right? If we get one person a month to that listing, it becomes 100 months before we even get a potential idea of what that conversion rate could be at scale, right? If we get 5,000 people a month to that listing, then we have a much better idea of what that conversion rate has the potential to be. And we have a much better understanding of what's working and what's not. And then if we make a change, we get the data back that tells us, okay, that was a good change or a bad change, right? So the more people we have coming to a listing, the more demand there is for that product, the easier it is to focus on some of the other things that drive more sales and increase revenue for your store. Now, Scott, I know that on the back end of me saying that, we're going to get the question, are you saying you should only launch products that have a documented demand? Should you never take a chance on something? Should you never launch anything that you can't prove out with numbers? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, that's a great point to bring up. And we've talked about this. We actually teach this inside of our 1-2-3 pod fast track. A little shameless plug there. If you're interested in going through that training, you can head on over to brandcreators.com/1-2-3. And that is a strategy, because what I just explained was that in a nutshell. Let's say, for example, and my wife does this all the time. She'll come up with a design that she thinks is cute, but she also knows that the people that we've already targeted, she knows who they are, right? She knows what they're buying. She knows what they're interested in, because we've already went after the products that get demand, and we've already proven that. There's nothing wrong with releasing products and not having the validation, but only when you've established your niche and that you have products that are bringing in traffic. Okay. I wouldn't start there, is what I'm saying. I wouldn't start with just throwing those out there and seeing what happens. I want to start there with what I know is working. And then I can start to gauge, okay, is the traffic starting to come into the shop? Am I getting 50 visits a day? Am I getting 100 visits a day? Then I can start looking at conversions if nothing's converting to sales. But the one thing that you can always do is launch products that you feel as though your customer would want, even though you don't have validation. Okay. You can do that, but you also must have products that you know firsthand and have been proven to sell, because that's going to bring in the traffic through the door.
Yeah, and our friend Fatty Pancake just said people don't know what they want until they see it, right? And if we don't always want to be the pioneer, right? We don't want to just guess. We want to create an established base of sales and customers that we can depend on to bring in the revenue that we actually need, and then we can start to take a few chances. But here's the deal, Scott. If you know your customers, it's not really taking a chance other than spending the 20 cents to create the listing and the time that it creates to modify that design to the new thing, right? Something like what we talked about with our friend Fatty Pancake, which sounds weird to call someone Fatty Pancake, but we'll go with it. Roll out more breeds or roll out more types of fish for your bass fishing t-shirt that's selling really well, right? Just take that design and modify it, and you're very easily able to do that. And then if you want to take a chance on a design and you have that customer list, you have that established base of customers, even if there's not search demand that is apparent within Etsy and sales demand that is apparent within Etsy, it does not mean, to Fatty Pancake's point, that there's not demand there. It's unrealized demand. And the way that we're able to easily exploit that is by leveraging the existing customers that we have, by saying, hey, I know you really liked this bass fishing pillow we put together. Maybe you'll also like this bass fishing hat or this bass fishing t-shirt, right? That has a similar or different design on it, something that's not in the marketplace. And they'll come over, and if they buy it, then we shoot up in the search results, and that unrealized demand becomes met, even though we didn't know that that existed. So we can start to take more chances in the niche-based approach versus if we're using the product-focused store, like we've been talking about for the last hour or so. We can't take as many chances because every product we have to launch has to already have built-in demand, because that customer list doesn't really do us much good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's good. Hey, I know some people want to know kind of our process. We do have a guide, which is going to be updated here soon. So anybody that downloads the guide is going to be able to get this. It's called the 64K roadmap. That goes through our product validation. If you want a copy of that, just drop in the comments 64K. Just put in there 64K in the comments, and we will go ahead and make sure that you get access to that. That takes you through our validation process, kind of like through the steps that we shared here, but it'll give you a little bit more kind of an overview of what that looks like. So if you're interested in that, it has a bunch more in there too. It's our whole roadmap that we've used to for that year that did 64K. Now it's going to be graduated to the 100K roadmap, because that's what it was last year. So if you want a copy of that, just put 64K in the comments, and we'll make sure that we get that over to you. Love the comments. Comments are doing really good over there. So I appreciate you guys for doing that. So, okay, we are going to answer a few more questions, but before we do that, I wanted to, as promised, I wanted to give you the other thing that I wanted to share here, and that was the how to really improve your sales with one simple method. And I want to share that with you next. All right. So if you feel like you're getting traffic, but you're not getting sales, well, you have to ask yourself, why? Right? Like, why am I not getting sales? I'm getting traffic, but I'm not getting sales. This is what we call a conversion problem. You have a conversion rate problem. If you get 100 people that come to your listing, your product, and you don't get a sale, that's a 0%. We all know that, right? But let's say you made one sale, that's 1%. Or let's say you had 2 sales, that's 2%. Now, on average, it ranges, but on average, depending on the time of year, most people are getting between a 1 and a 4, I would say. Now, in fourth quarter, that's going to be a bit higher. Okay. We've went as high as a 15% conversion rate, but typically we're hovering right around 3 to 5, somewhere in there. If you were to go throughout the entire year, Q4, we can't really use that because it's totally skewed. But here's the deal. I want to give you something that you can do to increase your conversions. Okay. And the one thing, and it doesn't take that much work. Okay. But you do have to do a little bit of manual labor. Okay. And that is, you need to start getting reviews from your customers. And I don't care if you only have 5 sales, you've got 5 chances to get a review. Okay. And 1 review is going to convert you higher than having no reviews. I promise you. Okay. The more reviews you get, the higher your conversion rate will most likely be, because people love to see people happy with what they've received or their experience or your customer service, any of that stuff. Okay. Now, how do you do this? Okay. It's going to be a manual thing. So the minute that someone orders from you, you will need to reach out to that person even before they receive their order. And I like to do this, or if I was starting out, I would do this manually. I would basically reach out to them and say, hey, we got your order. And you can automate this part of it. This part of that message that goes out, your first message that gets sent to them, you can set this up so it automatically goes out. And I would recommend that, because then it wouldn't have to be manual. And you would just say, hey, thank you so much for your order. We got it. We're packaging it up right now, or we're creating it right now. And we'll get that shipped out as soon as possible. If you have any questions, let us know. And then just sign off with your name and thank them. Like, that's it. All you're doing there is you're letting them know this shop owner cares, and this shop owner is there if I need them. That's step 1. Step 2 is, after it's been delivered, you would need to reach out to them manually in Messenger, okay, inside of your messaging area, inside of the back end of Etsy. And you'd want to just follow up and go, hey, it's been a little bit since or maybe you'd rephrase it. Maybe you do it like this. I noticed that your item was delivered, and I just wanted to follow up and check in with you and see how it is. Is everything good? Is anything that you need us to address? Like, literally, you're trying to see if there's a problem, because if there is a problem, you get to correct the problem. And some people think that could be a bad thing. No, that's a good thing, because you're showing them that you want them to be happy. Now, a lot of times they're going to be just like, yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much. Or maybe it was a gift for someone. Yeah, I gave it to my sister and she loved it. And you're like, awesome. Could you do me a quick favor? And could you leave us a review on your experience? As a small Etsy shop owner, reviews mean the world to us, because it shows others that we do care about our customers. If you would take a few minutes to do that, that would mean the world to us. Thank you once again for being a customer. We appreciate you. Like, that's it. That is your little message. Okay. And out of those 5, you might get 1, you might get 2, you might get 5. Okay. But you want to do this, especially in the beginning, because you want to get those reviews. Now, to take it a step further, and this is where this really can help you, and you don't have to rely on someone just looking at your reviews. You're going to take that review that they write, and you're going to take a screenshot of it, and you're going to create a picture in Canva with it inside of it. And then you're going to put that in an image slot. So this way here, when someone goes to your listing, they're going to look through those images and they're going to see one of those reviews. And then that might bring them over to see more of your reviews, because they might be like, oh, that was cool. That person said that. I wonder if anybody else said anything good. And then you would go ahead and lead them over to your reviews. Now, if you have 2, 3 reviews that are stellar, put those in that same image slot. Put 3 of them in there. Don't just put the 1, put 3. Okay. And maybe at the bottom, if they're all 5 stars, use Canva's little elements area there where you can put stars in and put 5 stars across it, because that's what they gave you. Okay. And what this does is it gives you what we call social proof. A review is a social vote from someone that is a third party person or, customer. And this will allow that person that might be a little skeptical, it'll push them over the edge to want to buy, because they feel, oh, this shop takes care of their customers. So if you're not getting as many sales as you think from your traffic that you're getting, well, this is a great way to increase those conversions. Or maybe you're getting 1% conversion and maybe you want to get 2% or 3%. This is a great method that could allow you to do that. So there you go. Give it a shot and maybe come back and let us know how it worked out. What do you think of that one, Chris? And what do you guys think of that? What do you think? Do you think that that should be something that maybe you should implement? Or has anyone experienced a positive review and then their sales increase? Be curious to know.
So I think that's reviews is one of the tweaks that we can make on the conversion rate side of things. And Scott, I know the question that you're going to get on the back end of it, because we get the question anytime you and I talk about how reviews increase conversion rate is, wait, are you saying you can't get sales without reviews? The answer is no. That's why we're saying it's a conversion rate increase, right? We're not saying it is the thing that will make people convert. But there is a subsection of people who will be much more comfortable and will more easily buy your product once you start to get those reviews. If you could never get a sale without reviews, no new products would ever sell. And obviously that's not the case. And I think reviews play a really big role in that last mile decision, right? If the customer has already come to your listing, whether they've clicked through from ads or search, and they have a little bit of doubt about how the thing fits, or whether it's made of the, printed the right way, or made of the material that they're really looking for. A lot of times they will go to the reviews section of the product if they can't find that information somewhere else, and that will be the decision-making factor for them. Etsy tends to mix both reviews of other products and shop reviews and kind of everything into a mixed bag. And so, Scott, by using the strategy that you were talking about, we can call out some of those things that we know would be sticking points that we've gotten positive reviews on in the past, and put those directly in front of people earlier in that process, and make it a little bit easier for them to find the information and that third-party vote, like you were talking about, before they have to do any digging.
Yeah. Okay. A couple things. Fatty Pancake, which, by the way, guys, she was one of our Etsy shop audits or auditees. So that'll be coming soon. If you have not already seen that, if it's not published yet, which depending on when you're watching this, February 1st is when this is live. That's when that's live. Today isn't February 1st. Today's middle of January. Yeah. So I think this was good. I noticed as soon as I started getting reviews, my traffic did start going up. So actually saw an increase in traffic as well. Also, if you ship a physical product, do an insert thanking the customer and reminding them to leave a review. It's another great tip if you are able to drop an insert card in there. So I think that's a great little nugget there. And then we had someone on Facebook that said, is this truly live? There's only 4 watchers and you haven't addressed any comments. Or yes, we're addressing a lot of comments. There's actually 151 people watching this right now between YouTube and Facebook. And you might be on the Facebook page, which doesn't get a lot of reach. Or maybe it's the group, but I think the group gets more. But no, there's 153 people as I'm watching the viewer count, and we were just over 200 a minute ago. So yes, this is live, by the way. Okay. And we have been answering a ton of questions, by the way. So I'm not sure where that came from. All right. So let's answer a few more questions. We have about 6 of them in the queue here from our Backstage Pass Club members. And we have a couple there that are non, but we're going to go ahead and answer all of these anyway. So where do we want to start here, Chris?
Yeah, Scott, let's start with talking about titles. So am I struggling with titles because English isn't my mother tongue? How can I actually make titles what people are looking for? And I think you can do this pretty easily independent of language, right? By using something like search volume as a good indication, and then looking at sales volume. So really when we're crafting titles, and Scott, I know you have a lot to say on this. When we're crafting titles, what we're really looking at is what are the keywords and phrases that the top sellers are using. That's generally a pretty good indication that that's something that people are searching for, right? If it's the product that has the highest sales volume, they're doing something right at the very least in their titles. We're also going to then layer on some of the search volume data that we can find, some things like the Everbee overlay, and then also common sense, right? And so is there anything else that goes into that process, Scott?
No, I think you're going to let Etsy tell you what they're supposed to be, right? Like what it is. If you're doing your product research, they've kind of already did the research for you, right? Like, so you're like, oh, that one product, the, I don't know, boho Western lamp. And you're like, oh, that's what they used and they're getting this many sales. I want to sell one of them. So your title is going to be, the beginning of it's going to be boho Western lamp. And then you might add some other things to it, but they're doing it for you. So it really shouldn't have anything to do with you not being, English, or maybe that's not your first language, right? So I would go off of what's already working in the listings that you are using as validation. That's kind of where I would go with that. So no, that shouldn't have any implications on that. Okay, so let's go to another one here. Pop that up there. Let's do this one here. Leonardo, once you select a customer niche and identified which product niche works best for them, the shoulder niches should be correlated to the main product niche. Yeah, it just needs to be related, right? Like, so it's like we said, if someone is decorating, like you might have someone that's decorating right now for boho. And then there might be Western boho. There might be, I don't know if it's a thing, cottage core boho. Like it starts with home decor, then it went to boho, and then there's like these other sub niches that go into it. So that's how I would do it. Now, you might find that you're going to have some that you'd be like, well, someone that's looking for farmhouse home decor isn't going to be interested in, I don't know, a different style, home decor. That doesn't mean you can't put that in your shop. It's still your in-home decor. It's just now you've kind of broken out of just that one narrow niche. And yeah, you might not have that customer that buys today because they're not looking for that thing. But if they like what they found, they're going to come back, and they might want something that's in a, Western boho look. So no, I would not let that, I wouldn't let that make the decision to not go into some of these shoulder niches, but I would in the very beginning try to make them as close as possible.
All right, we have a couple questions about variations. Scott, I'm going to pull this one from random Facebook user. If you have more than one item with the same design, do you put them as variations within one listing, or do you create separate listings for each one? And along those same lines, we just had somebody ask over on the YouTube side something very similar. Like basically, do I create it as one product, or do I create it as multiple products? And this is a question that we get all the time. And the answer to me is, if it's the same product, meaning it's the same design on a same t-shirt, then yes, it would be one listing, and the variation would then be sizes. If it's different designs, they would be different listings. So 2 t-shirts, one with a bass, another one with a trout, those would be 2 different listings. And then the one that I've started to see sneak up a lot recently, Scott, and this may be another myth that we have to bust the next time we do one of those episodes, is should I put a t-shirt, since the design is the same, a t-shirt and a sweatshirt on the same listing as variations of one another? And to me, no, it's the same design, but different product, right? So same design, same product, same listing. Same design, different product, different listing. Different design, same product, different listing, right? If it's different anyway, then it should be its own listing. If it's the same, right, same design and the same product in a different size, then yes, that would be a variation. But if the thing that the person is buying is different, then it should be on its own listing. What are your thoughts on that really quick?
Yeah, no, I got really nothing else to say on that. I think that, like you said, I wouldn't create a listing and have like a t-shirt, a mug, because it's the same design. I would split them off, have their own listing for each product type.
And the real reason behind that is we have to think about what the customer is expecting when they get there, right? If we want to kill conversion rate, that's a great way to do it. we were just talking about conversion rate a minute ago and boosting that with reviews. If we want to kill conversion rate, what we do is something to confuse that customer once they get into the listing. And a great way to do that is to put a t-shirt, a mug, and a sweatshirt all in the same listing, just because it has the same design on it, or it would appeal to that same customer. If they're typing in bass fishing t-shirt and they come to the listing and they see a sweatshirt, that gets confusing for them. The same thing in the alternative, right? They're typing in bass fishing sweatshirt, and in the search results, because your main product image is your bass fishing t-shirt, even if you do somehow start to rank for that keyword, they're not going to click on it because they're going, well, that's clearly a t-shirt. What I'm looking for is a sweatshirt. Or if they do, and they have to start to search through the listing to find the sweatshirt, you're losing out on a lot of buyers by doing that. And I understand this is another one of those things, Scott, that I think has a grain of truth to it, right? What people are saying is, well, I can squeeze all those keywords into the listing. And since you say sales and traffic are the thing that drives the Etsy algorithm, then if I can get as many sales as possible by putting in every possible variation of this that they could want to buy, then I should rank better, right? And the answer actually is no, because when you give people more options, they're less likely to make a purchase decision. And we've talked about this in the past, but they did a study, and I believe it was with different olive oils at a grocery store. And if you guys have been to a grocery store in the US, a lot of times they'll do food testing. And they one day put out, 3 different variations of the olive oil, and a bunch of people stopped and tried it and then made their purchases. The next day they came back, and I forget, it was something ridiculous, like 20 options, right? They had more people stop to try it, but many fewer purchases because people were confused about what to do. And so if there's a difference in the product or a difference in the design, put it on its own listing. We're not talking about colors or sizes here. If it's something that people would understand, where they say, I'd really like this in red, or I'd really like this in a 2X, then yeah, that's not going to cause customer confusion. But if they're looking for a sweatshirt and we give them a t-shirt and they have to then dig for the sweatshirt option, that's where it starts to have the negative side effects. So if it's truly a variation of that exact product and design, go for it. But if it's something different, put it on its own listing.
All right, cool. Let's knock through the rest of these here. A little fire round. Let's see here. Shosh. Yeah, if I get about 100 visits a day and my conversion rate is 2%, is it good? Am I in the right direction? Yeah, you are. You're in the right direction. That's good. Like 2% is good. 5% is better, but doesn't mean that you're doing bad. 2% is pretty good. Now, that being said, are there some things that you could probably do to try to increase it? Sure. Like getting more reviews, putting the reviews where people can see them in your image slots, things like that. Yes. That can increase that. Images, do you have more than 5 images? Can you add additional images of different views, the quality? So those types of things, your description, can you tighten that up? So there are things that you can do. I would say the main ones are reviews and product images to show the product in more detail, to help them see it before they actually get it, to help them make that decision. So that's what I would be leaning into there. Let's see here. We've got another one, Chris. And this one's for Chris Schaefer. How long between tweaking a listing with keywords, title, images would you consider long enough to consider it for the change? Was it improvement before doing on other listings? 2 weeks plus? ?
So I think he directed that at me because he knew I was going to say, it depends, right? If we get 5 impressions in those 2 weeks, then that's not enough time. We need several hundred or several thousand impressions under that new scheme. Now, I think, Scott, what is probably leading to that question is how long after I change my title should I expect to see a difference? And it's usually a few weeks. I'd say 4 to 6 weeks, if not a little bit longer. What we've seen in the Etsy ecosystem, especially if you're just looking at the organic side of this, that it can be 3 to 4 months after you make a change until you're kind of in that final settled position. But typically you'll start to see some changes within the first 2 to 3 weeks, and then you'll start to get some more reliable data within about a month and a half. So that 4 to 6 week mark. But again, if you come back a month after you make some title changes and you've had 5 impressions on that listing, then it's not nearly enough data. We need to have a few hundred to a few thousand people before we can even have enough relevant data to understand what's going on and if we made a change. And that's one of the reasons that you and I are such big fans of running Etsy ads, because by making that title change, we can immediately rank for new keywords that are going out through Etsy ads. And we can see at the keyword level, when somebody is coming in, do they purchase? Is this something that was a positive change for us or a negative change? If we're waiting on that organic side, like I said a minute ago, it can take 4 to 6 months to have enough relevant data about those keywords that we added, changed, removed, before we can make a decision about whether it was a positive change or not. So I love using the ads data as a backup for that. It backfills that data much faster than you'll get from the organic side. There's no hard, fast rule for this, but a couple weeks is usually when you'll start to see that shift. And then if you've gotten 5 impressions, give it a little bit longer. If you've gotten 5,000 impressions, you're going to want to take a look at that and make sure that that traffic is coming in. And Scott, we had a bunch of people asking about conversion rate or saying, hey, I'm at 0.5% or 1% on Etsy. And I think that question leads into the question that I want to ask you, which is, if I have a low conversion rate, should I start by playing with the listing, or should I start by looking at the traffic coming into that listing to see if it's qualified? So let's say we are getting that 5,000 impressions a month on that listing. Would you be immediately jumping into the listing to see if you could figure out where the problem is? Or would you first look at the traffic side of this to see if the impressions and clicks that you're getting are coming from a place that would lead somebody to a sale to begin with?
Yeah, well, I think that's a kind of to go back to what you were just talking about. I think it's important uh, that when you're doing that testing, I'm going backwards because I wanted to say something before we did move on. But if you're looking at like a time frame, if you have a time frame and you said this, if you had 5 impressions in 2 weeks, but you're like, well, it's been running for 2 weeks. It's like, well, you really didn't get enough data. So make sure that you're not basing it off of just time. You're basing it off of impressions, views, where people actually had a chance to see it. Okay. So that's a big one, right? If you're not getting the impressions, you can't judge it. So you can't go off of time. That's why, like Chris, you said, Etsy ads is going to speed up that process. That's why we love using them even just for the data. To answer the question on where do you focus if you have, 5,000 impressions, but you're not getting any sales, right? Or you're getting low sales, maybe 0.5%, right? And you're like, how do I get it to 1%? I personally would look at the traffic source first, because if we are getting, and again, okay, so let me back up. I'm assuming that we're running Etsy ads. Okay. And if we are running Etsy ads, then I'm going to look at the back end and I'm going to see what are the keywords that I'm getting clicks on. Those are bringing people over. That's the view that I'm getting, right? That's the, the person seeing it. What is that? And is it too broad, right? Is it something that someone searched for, saw my ad, they liked my picture, they liked it, they clicked in, and then they're like, oh, that wasn't really what I wanted, and then they back out? Because if that's the case, we got to cut that one off. So we're gonna eliminate that keyword. We're gonna put that in as like a negative keyword. So this way here, hopefully Etsy doesn't show our product for that keyword anymore. And then we're going to, even though we might have less impressions, we're gonna have more targeted impressions. That's probably where I would start. Now, if I went there and I go, oh no, it looks like they're all good impressions, then I would start to look at, okay, why aren't people buying? Maybe you have a review that is a negative review. Maybe it's a 3-star and it's on top now, right? So I would look at your, this is another thing I would do. I would make sure that you looked at your listing in an incognito window, not in your window. I would want to make sure that it's looking like, fresh from someone else's, view. And then I would want to see, what are they seeing? I'd look at it on mobile. What does it look like on mobile? Mobile experience is different than desktop experience. And then I would look at the image, because the image is going to be, a lot of times, it's not necessarily the conversion piece, but it's the click piece. So if someone comes in, you have that one picture, what are your other pictures? What are your supporting images? And if you don't have a review in there, like I had talked earlier, I'd put a review, one of your reviews in there, or a couple of reviews in an image slot. I'd put it in the second or third image slot so they could see that immediately. Those are some things that I would do. But I would probably guess that if you're running Etsy ads and you're getting that many views or that many people seeing your listing, and you're not converting, it's probably a keyword problem that needs to be turned off.
Perfect. And I think, it does come down to understanding, is the traffic you're getting qualified traffic? If we are getting 5,000 visits to our listing for this awesome giant travel mug that I have, right? And they're all from ceramic coffee cup. Well, then we know what our conversion rate problem is, right? This clearly is not ceramic, nor is it a coffee cup, although you could put coffee inside of it, right? And so if that's what our problem is, then our conversion rate problem has been solved, because we realize that when people are looking for a coffee cup, that's probably not what they are looking for. And Scott, I know we had one other question that I saw here in the queue, and if there's any other ones that you see sneak in, let me know. Cheryl says, I have a basic question. When a customer clicks on a listing in our shop, how do we encourage them to look at the other items? Do they typically go back to the search results?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of different things. Now, first off, if you have related products, Etsy will sometimes share those related products. So that's why, another reason why we want to have products that are related to the other products in our shop, because then Etsy will make the suggestion. They will do it for us because they're related. So they're going to want to do that. I mean, they're all about creating more ways for people to buy from that same shop because the person's already in that buying, that buying funnel, as we call it. So that's the first thing. Make sure that you have products that are related to the one product. The second thing is you could always encourage people to see your other products in your description. You can do that at the bottom of your description. You can do it at the top of your listing, like wherever you want that makes sense. The other thing you can do is you can put that in an image slot. Make sure you check out our other, whatever, pillows, our other home decor items for boho. Like you could totally do that, right? So those are just some suggestions. But my best way of doing this, and I think the most effective way, is going to be having Etsy make those suggestions for you. And that's only going to happen by you having products that are related and then getting sales through those products. And this is another reason why we're big on running Etsy ads, even if we're not making a profit right out of the gate, because we want sales to prove to Etsy that our products are selling. And from there, that also allows them to then start suggesting those products, right? Because they see that they're selling. So those are just some things that I would be considering. If you're brand new, if you're less than a month old, it's going to take some time to get that going. But the things that you can do is put them in your images, put them in there to recommend to go check out your other listings or your shop. Or the other thing is put it in your description. All right. So that's what I would do. Oh, one other thing I would probably do. I'd build a landing page in Everbee email, and I would encourage people to join my VIP club. And then I would send people an email to let people know about my other products. Do that too. Everbee email, if you're not using that yet, I would encourage you to do that. We've got some other trainings and live streams that we'll be doing in the future that'll show you exactly how to create these types of landing pages inside of Everbee email. But if you want to give that a shot, you can go over to emailforshops.com. Again, that's emailforshops.com, and we can throw that up there. I got that somewhere here. Yeah, right there. Oh, Chris did it. There you go. Emailforshops.com. If you go there, you can get a month free and you can start building a landing page that you can then direct people over to. And I believe our last live stream went over exactly how to do that. So if you want to go back and listen to that one, we'll also link it up in the description of this live stream as well. But yeah, emailforshops.com. You can get Everbee email and start building your email list of people that are interested in your products by, having them sign up for a VIP club or something that they will be able to get a discount maybe on their first order. And you can set all that up in Everbee email. So definitely give that a shot. So let's comb through here real quick. Chris, do we have any other ones that snuck in here? Anybody from our club? And I'll also throw this out there because while I was just talking about email, if you guys want our email marketing guide for Etsy, drop email in the comments and we'll make sure that we send you over a copy of that. It's about 45 pages and it's something that we've put together that we use as our email marketing playbook that does allow us to get more traffic and more sales through our own email list. And we're doing it in a way that, we don't need necessarily permission from Etsy because it's our own email list that we're building using our VIP list or our VIP club model, which is basically like, hey, sign up and you can get updates on special releases, special discounts, and our giveaways that we do periodically. So if you want that, make sure that you drop email in the comments and we'll make sure that we get you a copy of that sent to you. Okay. Any other questions, Chris?
We had one quick one that snuck in. It disappeared on me because everybody's commenting email in the comments. But it was something along the lines of, we were talking about the reviews photo, Scott. Where would I put that in the photos? Is that like photo number 2? Is that photo number 10? Do we have a recommendation for where that would go in terms of the order of the images to get the best results out of that strategy?
I would say as soon as possible. So I would say either the second or third spot. You might want to say the third spot because maybe the first one is your main image. The second one is maybe another picture, another angle of the thing. And then that's the third one. I would probably drop it in the third position, third or fourth max, because we know that most people are going to look at the first 3. And then after that, they might scroll through. But for the most part, it's going to be the top 3. So I mean, again, experiment. You know, it isn't going to hurt if you put it in the second spot. There's nothing wrong with that. If people see in your thumbnails other images, they're going to click through. But I would probably say in the top 3. So that would be the second and the third, because the first one's going to be your main image.
The other sneaky place that you could include that without taking up an image slot would be in your listing video. You can put that, and that will.
It's a good idea, yeah.
And you can even put that towards the end of that. And there's the chance that it'll show up on the search results page as well, right? So you can always take advantage of it that way and just kind of get that extra little boost that you get out of using a video. Scott, we had a few people in the comments saying, hey, I'd like you to do an audit of my shop. Before we jump off, let's remind everybody one more time how to do that, and then we'll let everybody get on with the rest of their day.
Yeah. So if you want to have your Etsy shop considered for an audit, you can go here, brandcreators.com/audit. Now, with that being said, we do have what we call our Backstage Pass Club. And the club is where we have our club members. They sit in on a batch recording session that we do for our Etsy shop audits, because we're doing 52 Etsy shop audits minimum, by the way. They're probably going to be more because we have a bunch to do. But what you can do is you can join our Backstage Pass Club, and you get access to our recording or our live stream of us doing that batch recording session. You also get put to the priority list of getting an Etsy shop audit done in the future. And then the other thing you do is you get your questions answered on those batch recording sessions if you're there live. And you also get priority in having your questions answered on these Wednesday lives. So a lot there is happening behind the scenes or in the Backstage Club Pass. We've got a bunch of members that already joined today again. So want to thank you guys, all you new members. We appreciate you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Glad to see you're feeling better, Scott. Thank you, gentlemen, for a great time. Yeah, I do feel a lot better. My voice is a lot better. And yeah, I'm feeling about 95% back. So hopefully in the next day or two, I'll be 100% back. We're getting there. All right, cool. Any other last little bits? Nope. Yeah, if you guys want any of those downloads I mentioned, just drop them in the comments. And yeah, it looks looking good. Looks like we had a really, really good turnout. So we appreciate you guys. Yeah, if I didn't even say how to join the club, go here, brandcreators.com/club, and you can join us in the Backstage Pass Club there. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up this session or this live stream. But again, go back, maybe listen to parts of this again in the beginning, especially because we talk about, how to pick the niche, but how to find those sub niches, how to go into how to go into niches that are competitive, and should you go into them if they're competitive? And we say, yeah, go for it. Like, that's where we want to go, where the demand is. So make sure that you do that. All right. If you have any other questions, if you're watching this on the replay, drop them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer those for you. You can always join our free Facebook group, by the way. You can head on over to brandcreators.com/group, and you can hang out with us over there as well. And depending on where you're watching this, listening to this, we want to thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, take care, take action, and we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.